to embark on a journey into the unknown, the unexplained, ghostly encounters, lucid dreaming, astral projection, the Mandela effect. This is Out of Body Experience TV with your host, Juan Augusto.
Hello. We are here. Welcome to Out of Body Experience TV. I'm here with Big C's 82. That's right? I said it right?
Yeah, that's right, buddy. What's going on?
Okay. So today we are having a discussion, and it's a continuation of Jerry's The Dark Wolf's Den radio show. And they were discussing about mind versus matter and psychic phenomena. So the first part of it, we're going to be talking about mind over matter. Now, I was listening to the show and I was blown away at the experiments that were done. And I'll just mention some of the experiments. So basically, some of the experiments were done with like water, okay? And there was one where there was a jar, 3 jars, and it had love, hate, and then there was one that was blank. So the lady that was doing the experiment, she would say positive thoughts to the jar, and the thing is, the jar had rice and water, and then the other ones had rice as well. So there was one where she would say pleasant things to, positive affirmations, and then the other jars that was labeled hate, she would give like negative thoughts, negative affirmations, and just say hurtful stuff. And then over a period of time, she saw what was like, the positive one was nice. It wasn't moldy or anything. The negative one was moldy, and it looked not so pleasant. I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, how's it going, everyone? Interesting topic that we're going to be speaking about today. Yeah, I think for me personally, our minds, or my mind at least, can really sway back and forth, especially if we have a positive or negative antidote when it comes to what we are perceiving, right? Or what we're going into, like perhaps be a situation, a conversation, or a new setting, right? So yeah, I could definitely see how this experiment went with 2 different scenarios, and how this person really thought about one or the other.
Now, there was another one. I think I don't know if it was the same doctor. Like, I believe his name is Dr. Emoto. But I remember seeing this experiment done on, have you ever seen What the Bleep Do We Know?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there was one where I think it was where the lady or the doctor was saying pleasant things just to the water. There was no rice involved. But you could see that once they placed it in a microscope, you could see that the water it looked beautiful. It was like crystal. It looked crystal-like with the positive affirmations. The negative one, it looked diseased. It looked charred. It looked not so pleasant, right? So I was like, and that's the thing, right? We, as human beings, we're compromised, or we're like 70% water, are we not? And if it has the reaction in that experiment, think about it. We drink water. We have all this water in us. So if we listen to negative music, or music with hateful words, or just negative connotations, would it not be affecting us? You know what I mean? We don't see it right away. We don't see it on the surface, or maybe we do.
Yeah, I mean, this happens all the time, even on a subconscious level, for those who are perhaps struggling with some sort of eating disorder, right? Or anyone in general after they indulge, let's just say, in a bag of chips or ice cream, right? Our mind really goes to what do we feel? How do we look at ourselves in the mirror after having maybe a big meal or that extra scoop of ice cream, right? So our mind does play, I wouldn't want to say a trick, but it does influence us in a way where something that we could see, or it being tangible that we could touch and feel, can really change its texture, right, to something positive or something negative.
Now, have you ever done this? Like, for instance, um, you say to the food, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because this was one of the experiments that was mentioned where you basically give gratitude in the food that you're about to eat. And it doesn't it sound like prayer? Just before, you say grace before meals, thank you for the meal that I'm about to eat, you know. So it makes you wonder, right? It's like, did I guess the religions know something back then that we don't realize? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, have I done it in the past? The question was, of course. Have I done that in the recent present? Yes. Um, you touched on something there with religion, and various religions, do that. I'm both Roman Catholic, so for sure we were grown up to give some sort of thanks before meal. But I mean, even going back to First Nations, right here in Canada, they really honor and respect the animal that they are about to kill, and gave their life up for the meal, right? So yeah, I mean, I do this not on a regular basis, but I think the last time I did this is when I was traveling in Europe, and the one of our guides swam down to get fish, or I think it was octopus at the time. And does it taste better? Of course it does. I mean, this is a living creature, and we need to eat. We're one of the top chain of predators and carnivores here on this earth. So for sure, it's nice to give thanks, and it does change the meal. Could it be subconscious, something in our brain, or maybe it's a spiritual thing, right?
So here's the thing. Like, for instance, if you think, or even you speak to somebody, right, and you say negative stuff to them, you're affecting them in a negative. Like, if you say something negative, you're affecting them in a negative manner. So it's like, I think it's important for us to be positive to one another, don't you think?
100%. And I have an example. It's funny that we're talking about this, because yesterday I was mentioned to you before we started today, is I had to go in last night to speak with one of the workers for the business that I represent, and the conversation was really around how this person is perceived from other people, right? And they think that people see them as something negative, and a loudmouth, someone that wants to go above and beyond. But after an hour and a half of talking to this individual, I can really see that they really care. Yes, they may be over the top, and their language they use is colorful, but they really care. And right then and there, with my training and my history, I really changed the page, and I asked different types of questions to really let this person understand that they are more than what they hear, and that from what I'm hearing, it's a different tune. It's a positive tune. So how can we change those circumstances from being a negative one to being a positive one?
Now, have you done anything like in your life to change the way you feel? Like, for instance, like for me, what I ended up doing a few years back was all the music that I had on my iPod, I threw out, I dumped, right? Because I would have hip hop, the I don't want to cuss, but some of the words in this in the music contain cuss words, and it was
Mhm.
talking about money, women, this and that, and all that. So, like, remember Tupac?
Mhm.
Tupac. He said, "Listen to the words of the song." I remember hearing what Tupac was saying a while back, and then I said, "You know what? I never really listened to the words of the song."
Mhm.
So back then, I just started listening more to the words of the song, and I was like, I don't resonate with this anymore. Yeah, it has a good beat. Don't get me wrong. When you go to a club, you listen to it, but I started kind of distancing myself from the music I was listening to on my iPod, and I replaced it with pan flute music, right? Wind chimes, meditation music, right? And I felt great. And like just recently, what I started doing was like even when I go to bed before I go to bed, I listen to singing bowls music or meditation, right? So I find myself listening less to like the mainstream, tones, the mainstream music, and I feel like great. It's like my mind feels great. My body feels, refreshed. It's like I had a Reiki session. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm. 100%. Once again, have I done anything recently to change the onslaught of continuous bombardment of how I was in the past to the present and to hopefully in the future? Yes. You know, this last couple months, I've been personally struggling with a lot of my own mental health issues, right? And I've reached out personally to an employee assistant program that's with my own business that I work for, right? So with one of the sessions I was in, talking about find a center, right, and center down on it. The other thing was to open up with how you're feeling, what you're going through, and it could be with a person, it could be with an object, it could be, with nature, it could be with music, different types of music, right? Observe, start seeing things in a different perspective, a different view, from a different notation, right? And then stay with it. Right, you're going to fail, you're going to stumble, but stay with it and find some clarity behind it. Um, as you know, and maybe not our listeners here, but I played Ontario baseball growing up. And the one thing that, being one of the um, 3 or 4 non-Caucasian players, as we all know, we're both Latino, traveling all over North America and Canada and the United States, country music was something that really connected with me at a young age. And I stopped listening to it, but recently, I've gone back to it, and it's kind of turning the page with me in a positive sense, where I'm listening to the words, as you said, and it's bringing some joy. And I gotta give a huge shout out to Tupac. I'm a big Tupac fan. I'm more so than anyone else. And yes, his music does have a different connection, and we should definitely listen to that.
Definitely, definitely. Now, I wanted to go back to, like, for instance, the connection between human being to human being. Now, like, if we were to set the intent on someone, like, just say if they have an ailment, and do you think it's possible that we, as a collective, can heal that disease, just say, with our minds, if we set the intent, if we say like the positive reinforcement, positive affirmations to that individual, we focus in on, let's just say, I don't know, an ailment on their leg or something more serious. Do you think that it's possible that we can heal them? I think it's possible. I think as a society, though, we've been quote unquote been told, "Oh, this is the impossible." And you know what? It's not. I'm not giving out medical advice, but if anything, if you have any ailments, obviously go to a doctor. You know what I mean? But like from the perspective of what we're talking about, I think we do have the capacity to heal one another.
I read you a quote that just popped into my mind. It's from one of our favorite movies we touched on in the recent past, The Matrix. And here it is. Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. Then you will see it is not the spoon that bends, it is yourself. And that just pumped up, it came to my mind when you're talking about, can we, with our minds, try to help someone with an ailment or perhaps any stress or mental health issue that they're going through? And I think yes. And I think what this quote in the movie came up to mind is that our wavelength of our brain capacity and our energy is energy, right? And if we as a collective come together, using our mindset and using that power, we can, I believe we could hound that energy to change what is happening in the present and in the future in a positive way.
Yeah, because I thought about that, right? It was like even with astral projection, right? It's like, uh, you know, I would want to go, to like just say, I visualize myself going to a hospital and just giving someone that's sick white light. Like I mentioned in the previous broadcast that I went over to my father and I gave him white light, and I was like, whoa, that was interesting. So I figure why not do it on a grander scale? You know what I mean? Like eventually, like individuals that who are suffering, just going through a lot, by doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, we that's one thing we haven't really tapped into, I guess, as a society, right? I mean, um, we're asked to pray and ask for things or give thanks for things or repent, right? But we don't really sit down and say, you know what, let's help collectively with a group, this person, or let's change the mindset of these people, right? And it's possible. I think we haven't had the opportunity to really experiment with this type of positive energy, which I think it is positive. Of course, there's always a negative stature behind it, but we got to find a way to house it. Don't you think?
Exactly. I think, and I think more people are waking up with the first lockdown. A lot of people are researching, on ways to calm the mind, expand the mind, raise the consciousness. And even myself, I just started like uh, thinking about different things that I want to expand, right? Like, for instance, I even thought about retrying remote viewing. And at first, it was like, oh, I remember getting into remote viewing a few years ago, like many, many years ago. And I didn't resonate with remote viewing. And then I said to myself, you know what? I might want to revisit remote viewing and integrate it with astral projection, right? So maybe combining both, I guess, somehow. And which is what we're going to talk about now is psychic phenomena. So I know a lot of people think, oh, psychic phenomenon, psychic mediums, they think it's hocus pocus or it's all a sham or whatever. But let us talk about Project Stargate. Now, for those who don't know Project Stargate, this is like uh, from what I understand, it was the U.S. military, right? They found out that Russia was using psychics to train their spies and utilize their consciousness, right? And so what they did was they spent, I believe it was $20 million, and they called it Project Stargate, and they trained their soldiers and to locate, certain targets, right? And the guy's name, it was there were several gentlemen. I think it was Joseph McMonagle, Russell Targ, and I do know Ed Dames. I remember hearing Ed Dames on Coast to Coast talking about remote viewing, and I was intrigued by that because basically they were, utilizing their consciousness to find different targets, you know, like whether it be missing people or just, different things.
This goes back to something similar that we spoke about with the out of body experiences, right? I mean, how can we once again transport ourselves either on a physical state or a mental state to a different point of time, past, present, future, and to find a way to change, alter, stop, prevent, excel that scenario, that situation that may have happened or is going to occur, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely I know Project Stargate, and I've heard it before in the past, and this has been going on in even during the Great World Wars. there were studies and documents that both the Allies and the Nazis in that regime were using different forms of scientific experiments, let's just say, to one up the other. And it's, a lot of it hasn't been proven, but it's all theory. But I like leaning against theory, because then we can have a huge discussion and to figure out, what other fantastic ideas or situations could have occurred from those theories.
You know what I find funny is that um, when the lid blew off of remote viewing, right? People were finding out about this. They're like, "Oh, wow, this is an actual thing." So, when the lid gets blown off, they're like, "Oh, Hollywood has to do their thing," and they created that movie. They made that movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, right? And
Mhm.
what was the other one? Suspect Zero, right? I remember watching Suspect Zero, and that was the first time I ever heard of remote viewing. I was like, "Oh, wow!" So they're actually making this mainstream now. So it's good that a lot more people are waking up to the fact of all this, going on, and like even the Gateway Project. I think is the in the CI, the alphabet agencies. I want to say I gotta watch what I say, so again, because the censorship and all that with
Mhm.
YouTube. But there's talk, or there's documents and talking about like consciousness expansion, astral projection, out of body experiences, remote viewing, all this stuff. And I was like, wow, it's there for people to see, but they don't want to take time and read.
Oh, for sure. And it's all connected through, once again, energy, right? Through electronic, through some sort of, sine wave, and it's there. And yeah, we are a huge percentage of water. And what is water? It's a conductor, right? And can we use our bodies, our natural state, to increase that flux, right, and to propel us into a different direction, using our energy, using our water? I think it's so. I mean, it's fluid, and so are we. We're able to move in different motions and dynamics. So why not use our mind in that state, right? And it's funny because from what I'm hearing right now, with the energy and different phenomena and teleportation with our minds or our bodies, um, a lot of people, from what I've been hearing, is there's been crossover communication with our cell phones or our landlines. And it's like, you pick up your phone and you hear static or a different conversation. You pick up your landline and all of a sudden you hear your next door neighbor talking, and it's like this electronic energy, or energy in its normal state, is crossing over. And what is causing that? Is it us? Is it something else? Is it extraterrestrial? Is it spiritual? Is it a phenomenon, right? And I think, as you mentioned, a lot of people are waking up, still slowly, but more so now than ever before. And we definitely need to ask that hard question: why is it does it have to be like this?
I'm just going to read one of the comments here from Joshua Benjamin. Thank you, Joshua. Joshua says, icebreaker: astral travel is how you exit the body at death. Mind sight, it's how you see without a body after death. If you don't dream or see only darkness when you sleep, then you see darkness at death. Okay, okay. Well, thank you for your comment. Now, see, that's the thing. I said to myself that I wanted to kick it up a notch in terms of astral projection. I have been doing lucid dreaming on a regular basis for the last 6 years, I guess. And I said to myself, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to revisit remote viewing. Now, what I mean by kicking it up a notch, I think I'm getting to the point where I want to try and locate missing people. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, and that's
Wow.
that's gonna be a tough one. Like, but I have thought about this for a long time, and I said to myself, you know what? I've been doing astral projection for 27 years, right? And I'm still learning. But the thing is that I feel that I'm ready to attempt this. You know what I mean? And like with the help of remote viewing, right? Remote viewing, they pretty much locate specific targets, right? So if I were to, I guess, integrate both, maybe one in the other, that is what I wanted to do. And there have been, several mediums. I don't like using the term psychic mediums. I just don't like, I just like Alison Dubois, right, from the show Medium, actually. So she worked with law enforcement, and she solved some cold cases from her visions, her dreams, right? So I was thinking, it is possible. There's several people that I'm actually even talking to this one guy who has dreams, and it's along the lines of solving crimes, right, by the dreams. So it's interesting, though.
It is definitely interesting. It is. I mean, this is the first time hearing this, so this is groundbreaking for me to hear this from you one. But as long as we've known each other, I think you know yourself best. And if you're ready, I think you're ready, right? I don't think anyone else could tell you that. And our families have had some sort of a gift, right? I mentioned this before. How on my mother's side, I always call them witches, quote unquote, because there's always a way that they either predict the future or they sense it through a feel, a touch, a dream or thought, some sort of like that. And I've always kind of shied away from it. But every once in a while something happens, and it reminds me, well, maybe you have that gene within you as well. But on your end, I think if this is something you want to do, master it, which I know you will, and look at all the angles, right? Especially if you want to dabble in missing people. I actually backtracked and watched one of my favorite episodes, Unsolved Mysteries, right? And I finished the latest 2 seasons, but I wanted to go back and watch it from day one, right? 1989, and it started off, and the second season talks about mediums and psychics and those people who have an ability to help, right? And it's been around for longer than any of us have been here breathing, right? So why not use one of our gifts and tools for something good?
You know what? I remember you mentioning to me about Unsolved Mysteries, the new one, and I saw a trailer of it. And then now that you mentioned the older version with Robert Stack, I remember watching the Unsolved Mysteries. I think it was on Wednesday nights, and I think I may revisit that show, right? So just to, how do I say it? Maybe tackle some of those cases. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or I don't know. Because the thing is, the reason why I have interest in doing this is because when I was a kid, I don't know if you know this one, when I was 4, I went missing for like 4 or 5 hours, I guess, at Center Island, right? So my mom let go of my hand, right? And I went wandering off. So imagine like losing your child for 5 hours. You think the worst. You think, oh my God, he's drowned. He's dead. You know what I mean? So even my late aunt, she thought I was drowning. She was crying and all that. And they had to call my dad, right, from work. So he came to the island. He was looking for me and all that. And eventually I was found. So when they told me this, I was like, oh my God. So the thing is that I was one of the lucky ones. I was returned. Nothing happened to me. Everything was safe, but not like, and that was different times back then. Now it's more, a common occurrence of people going missing, children going missing. And for me, it saddens me to hear that, like to see that, like that the family will never get to see their child or their fellow loved one again. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's why I said, you know what, if there's anything that we can do, if we can utilize this, astral projection, remote viewing, and do this, and bring closure to someone, then why not? We got to do it.
Did you and I live similar lives when we grew up? Because story has it. I was trying to do a quick Google check here, but story has it in the area of those who live in Toronto here in Ontario, DuPont and Davenport area is where I was born. I think I was 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most. Story has it is that I went missing from my parents' front porch. At the time, they were living with another family member who was splitting the unit, but I went missing from our front porch, and the front porch was barricaded with plywood that was about 3, 4 feet tall. So somehow I, slid through the railings that are only a couple inches wide, or I climbed over the plywood, made myself downwards, and I crossed. I think it was DuPont to across the street. Let it be about 1 or 2 kilometers, and I'm a kid, so I'm either crawling or stumbling, barely walking, right? Anyways, I was found as similar as you. Cops were involved and missing. Everyone was looking for me. But that's something I always wanted to know, because my the second oldest, my sister is 3 years older than I am, and she was looking after me, and she went inside for a quick second, and that's when it happened. So I always want to know if there's a way. And that's always curious, right? Because as a kid, how did I get off the front porch, and how did I make my way, down a kilometer or two across the street, and I wound up in a pizza with a lollipop in my hand, and some police officer ended up finding me. Right? What happened during that time? It's always something I always wanted to dabble in. It's a phenomenon. It's a mystery. And maybe one day I'll find out. Maybe you'll help me out.
Wow. Now, do you like think it was maybe something? Could it have been something supernatural that was keeping you safe? Guiding you, like, okay, you hopped over or you went through the bar. But do you think that possibly that maybe a fellow loved one was keeping an eye on you and making sure you were okay? You know what I mean? Because I've heard of stories like that, like when a fellow loved one is in distress, or they're almost having like a near-death experience, they inexplicably get rescued somehow, and they don't even know how.
Yeah. Well, I actually found the street, and it's called Delaware Avenue. So Delaware and DuPont. So Delaware is it's a good stretch. So yeah, it looks like it's about a kilometer of walk that I was doing. Now the question is, loved one or whoever. During that time, I know the story goes is that there was a lot of missing children happening back in the early 80s, mid 80s, right? I was born in 82, so this might have happened in 84, 85 time. So a lot of kids were going missing during this time in the early 80s in Toronto. So could it have been someone physically who was walking by and had this type of interest and picked me up and then got spooked? Or there's another story that this house was haunted. So could it have been a spirit that didn't like me, right? Or maybe it was maybe I did find a way strategically by myself to make my way down Delaware towards DuPont in the intersection of Dovencourt. So I don't know, but I've always felt even now I'm reaching 40. I've always felt there's something else, right? And I know I mentioned not too long ago in our past broadcast that I may have made a deal with whoever when my dad was sick with his first cancer. But there's always something on my back, knowing that there's more to me than I could figure out, and that's one of the things I'm struggling with right now, mental health wise. But I don't know. It's very interesting to find out, and I want to see if there's a way. I don't know. Anyone have any tips?
I'm just gonna go through some of the comments. Facebook user says fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. I can't see who the actual member is because I'm on the different platform. But thank you, CSFL, or actually Champion Sports Nation, as he changes his name. Says, hey Juan. I'm like, hey CSFL. See, that's the thing. The name CSFL, it's pretty much it's stuck. You know what I mean? It's like it's gonna take a while for me to say Champion Sports Nation. I'll just say CSFL. But thank you for checking the broadcast. But yeah, it's crazy to think about. I actually even started doing the tips and techniques, or the procedure, I guess, if you can call it, in locating somebody that has been missing. I've been trying this. It's a long process, it's because you have to meditate, you have to be in that right frame of mind, you have to be comfortable, like when you're meditating and all that. So what I decided to do is record the session, right, and like document the like, for instance, when I'm astral projecting, I record it, and then I will look at the video. I will analyze it if there's anything, that comes up in the analyzing of the video. And then when I'm experiencing the astral projection and anything that I remember, right, or visualize or see, then what I will do is do another recording and then just speak about what I've witnessed, experienced, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like a process, right? Step one to step whatever. Have you reached out to anyone that has attempted this or is doing it?
Well, there was this one gentleman that apparently he's been having dreams, and I don't want to get too much into it, but like it's an interesting conversation in what we were having, right? So I'm trying to pick his brain and see where he's at and how to do certain things. And it's funny because he's actually wanting to pick my brain as well in terms of astral projection. So he has the dreams, but he wants to kick it up a notch in terms of astral projection and doing that and utilizing that with his dreaming. And it's funny because I was like, okay, so basically we're learning from one another. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're trading notes, right? So he's kind of done it a little bit more than you to, or he's getting more of a vision.
Yeah, he's getting more. He's getting more because he's actually gone to certain places, like physically, and done investigations. Like, and I don't know. I'm nowhere near that. I'm like more, for me, I'm more astral projection. Going to the certain location in the consciousness, I guess, in time and space. Hyperenta. You know what I mean? So basically, like there are a few cases, cold cases of missing people from the local area, the Toronto area, that I have been focusing on. And I won't mention it here, just out of respect.
You gave me chills when you just said this.
Yeah, it's from because I wanted to keep it local, like, because we're from Toronto, right? So anything that's local, right, that hasn't been solved, and I want to try. So I've been reading up on different articles, like the time, the writer who was writing. So who knows, I might reach out to the writer of that specific article in regards to the case. But right now I don't feel comfortable doing so because I'm just learning how to do this. But eventually, if I get results, then I'll reach out to them.
It's it's a little bit ironic because sometimes I find myself going on the Toronto Police Facebook page, right? And especially when you see on the news, a missing person or a cold case that is now reaching, a closeness of being solved. And there was one mid 2000, I think I want to say before COVID, so probably in the earlier months. There was a cold case here in South Etobicoke, where I live, more so in Mimico, in one of the old buildings back in the 70s. There was a missing child that went missing, and they were abducted and later found not too far where I live here in South Etobicoke. And it really spoke to me because it was like, this was found in a street, which is walking distance. The body was found in walking distance, but they still don't know how this child ended up from one of the top floors in an apartment building, and ended up where I am, the area where I am, right? So I looked into it. Big shout out to Toronto Police. They had a very good caption and past circumstances in an article. So I did my own research, and I researched different things, and it does resonate to you, right? It does. I at least for me, I built some connection with that. So it's a little bit ironic that you're bringing this up and what you've done, and sometimes I find myself doing it too. So you have me hooked right now on this. I'm excited for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Like even James Van Prague apparently has done a lot of work like that. Like so, Alison Dubois. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just research a little more on Alison Dubois, because I watched the show Medium religiously back in the
Mhm.
day, but that was just the TV version, But I haven't really like done in depth in regards to like what she's done, like away from the show,
So this person that you're connecting with that has it more so in their sleep, has have they had any outer body experiences or kind of astral projecting themselves, or is it just dreaming?
It's just dreaming. Yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
right there you guys can merge,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
if he's having success with dreaming and you're having success with more so, projecting yourself, perhaps there's a way where you could project yourself within his dream, and then
Interesting.
both of you can project. You could project him along with you within his dream that he's having,
That's an interesting thought. I didn't think of it that way. I was,
right?
because he wanted he requested, oh, we got to start this, right? So I was like, because I'm still like reading his bio and his experience, right? And I
Yeah.
was blown away. I have to read his part two of his, but it's most interesting. The first part of it, I was like, wow,
Hmm.
right? And yeah, it's just it's interesting to think about.
So many theories and angles, right?
Definitely. But let's see. Let me go through. Oh, actually, one of the comments, Prenta says hello, welcome. We appreciate everybody commenting. And let me 1 second. Okay, so have you ever thought about like remote viewing or expanding your consciousness by a dreamscape?
Well, not so dreamscape, but more so in the reality on projecting myself for enhancing something beneficial for me, right? On getting myself into a different situation or different environment, right? um, and I do that on a constant, to better myself. This is something I've been actually doing lately with one of my therapy sessions, is to get myself in a better situation or better mood, right, or better circumstances to where I am right now. So does it work? It does. It's helping. But the more so you talk about it, and since we're having this broadcast today about it, I have to really perhaps change my tune with it, and enhance it in a different way, because it definitely works. I know that for a fact, because things that I've asked for or thought of myself to be in a situation has occurred, right? So it goes back to the minor man situation we were speaking earlier. So can this, phenomenon, or this, psychic ability or connection to my own, theory, I think it does, and I think it could. So yes, I will be doing it and continue to do my version.
Cool. Now, I don't know. I wanted to change topics off of the psychic phenomenon. Well, it sort of ties into it, but did you hear about the woman that won the $60 million lotto max, and how she won?
Here in Toronto,
Yeah,
lately, right?
yeah,
Their husband.
yeah. So listen to this, guys. Okay, listen to this. For the viewers, if you have a dream with numbers in them, write them down and play those numbers, because you never know when they will materialize. They could materialize 2 weeks from now, a month from now, or maybe 20 years from now. So, which is what I wanted to talk about, because this lady from my area, Toronto, both of our areas, uh, ended up winning $60 million lottos, right? And how did she win? She used her her late husband's numbers from a dream 20 years ago. Okay. So she utilized those numbers, and she won $60 million. Okay.
Hmm.
So here's the thing. In a dream of many years ago, so basically in this dream, I was right beside, the drum with all the balls in it, right?
Hmm.
So I'm hearing, the sound of the drum or the balls, going around and around and around, and I'm hearing it. I'm here with a clipboard in this dream. So I have a pen, and then I see the ball going into the slot, one, and then two, and then three. There's six balls. So I'm writing down the numbers, right? And in the dream, I'm aware of this. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in my dream, and I was aware. I was like, okay. So I wrote them all down, and then I eventually woke up. So I wrote them down. So you know what I'm gonna do? Basically I gave the numbers to my aunt. I gave them to my mom. I gave them to my dad. I gave them to whomever. I gave them to people on Facebook. I'm like, hey, you know what? Try these numbers. Hey, Allison. So play these numbers, right? And I said, who knows? You
Hmm.
never know. So says Big C's, I'm gonna give you these numbers, okay? And wouldn't that be something if you play these numbers and you win the lottery? Imagine that.
Hmm.
It's like,
You know,
imagine
I
that.
for sure. I read this story one morning, and I wake up pretty early during the weeks for work reasons, but I read it, and I clicked on it, and I continued to read her story. So she's an immigrant, like most of us are, immigrated here from one of the South Asian countries, and the story resonates from the struggles as every newcomer to a new country goes through, right? And yeah, the as you mentioned, was the numbers from her husband's dream, right? And then they were been playing it for decades, as they said, right? um so dreams do have some sort of either a positive repercussion. It could warn us. It could be, telling us on what we're feeling on a subconscious level, and or in this case, could predict the future if we're listening, right? Um, and it's up to us to really dissect it, and probably do some Google search, or ask other people who know a little bit more about dreams. But is there a way where we could change our future with certain things, with dreams? 100%. I really believe that. Um, and in this case, I was like blown away. I was like, wow, these numbers came from a dream. Years later, they've been playing on these numbers. I also played the lottery. That's one of my Achilles heel. I've never dreamt about numbers before, but good for them. But it goes to show you that sometimes the answers that we're looking for are right in front of our faces. They may be hidden, but it's there, and that really speaks to me about the stuff we're going right now through with COVID, right? A lot of things are right in front of our faces. You just need to open up your eyes and listen a little bit more clearly to figure out what's actually being done and being said.
It's funny how you mentioned we need to open up our eyes. And I was like, well, I like that. But also, some need to open up their third eye. Do you know what I mean? Their third eye. So I'm gonna go on to the next topic. It's manifesting thoughts. So I don't think we discussed this. I think we were gonna save this for another broadcast, and basically, manifesting. I discussed this with your sister as well. And have you ever tried like looking into the whole manifesting, the secret, the creative process, so to speak?
The law of attraction.
Yes, yes.
Yes. I remember the conversation that you had with my sister, because she told me that she had talked to you about this. And I think this was a period in your life, one where I think you were changing the page or the novel or the book, however you want to say it, on your life in a positive way. And I think that's where the time where you and I reconnected after many, many years. And it was through my sister and through this conversation you had with her. And yeah, the law of attraction, forgive me, and manifestation, or the they say the principles of manifesting are your desires or whatnot. I don't know. Have I done it in a way where it has benefited me? I think it has, in a sense where um, it has proven that with struggle with success, there's always going to be struggle, but with struggle, you are going to have successful outcomes, especially if you dig deep and achieve what you want to accomplish, right? So in the sense of that, I have, and I've been lucky enough, knock on wood, unfortunate to live in a couple homes. I've been able to flip one or two and build my nest egg from there, and achieve to where I am right now, where a lot of people didn't really have the opportunity. So I guess the manifestation of I wanted more to myself when it comes down to having a home or having a roof of myself and giving challenges and overcoming that. I think I have, but in a sense to where the law of attraction of energy and feeling things, I don't think I've been there yet. And this is something that I'm going through right now with my mental health and my therapist is to really change the tune when it comes down to what is affecting me internally, mentally wise.
So for me, you know how I like to do experiments, do tests to see if there is validity to what they were saying in the DVD, The Secret, the Law of Attraction. Because at first when you hear this, you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Myself.
yeah, it's all horse pucky. You know what I mean? So like me, like remember in the out of body experiences, I did those two validation where I got confirmation, right? So in this term, I did the visualization of myself holding a check, right? And I did that every day. It was just a test, okay? Because I know some people are gonna say, "Oh yeah, you want to manifest money, money," and I'm like, I was doing a test, right? It's a test, a simple test. So I would visualize myself holding a check with a smile, and it said, uh, I was visualizing $100,000 just for the hell of it. Okay, just for the hell of it. So I did that for like 2 weeks, right? And after the 2 weeks, it was like in that 1 month, I ended up winning $8,800
Hmm.
on Proline. So I was like, oh my gosh, right? So the thing is that a lot of my coworkers were like, they're like, Juan, whatever you're doing here, they were throwing money at me. They're like, here, whatever you're doing, I want in on whatever you're doing. So I made them copies of, oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? No, no, I lent them my copy of the DVD, The Secret, wink, wink, you know, and they were blown away by that, right? Because the thing is that um, I think the individual has to do this on their own, right? They can't ride the coattails of someone, because as soon as I started bringing people in, right, I guess the energy or whatever frequency I was on, it was dissipating, right? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, I brought all these people in. Oh, they wanted to, they were like throwing me money. Here you go, one, and then I wasn't winning anymore, right? So I just had to like distance myself in terms of letting people, it was a journey for myself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So anytime I was on that right frequency, it had to be for myself, my own peace of mind, my own abundance, you know. Um, and when basically Tesla, right? Nikola Tesla says if you want to find out the secrets to the universe, you got to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So the thing is that when I was doing this, I was on that right frequency. I was on that right vibration. I was attracting the abundance that I was thinking about in my mind. So uh, there was a bit of a funk where I stopped doing this, right? And then um, I said to myself, I'm going to get back to doing that visualization, that thinking, what you think about, you bring about. So whenever I did this, I would attract that abundance that I was thinking about. And as crazy as an example, there was one time where I was leaving work, and I don't know if I told you this one, where I would I was looking up at the sky, right, and it was so windy, and I looked and I could see from a distance there was a $20 bill in the air. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm looking and I was like, is that $20 bill in the sky right now? And I couldn't believe it. It's like you had to be there to see it to believe it, right? So I'm here. I put out my hand. I kid you not, and I kid you not with everything that I am. I put out my hand and that $20 bill came right into my hand. It was windy, man. It was windy and it came right into my hand. And I was like, oh my God, if I had a freaking camera to document this, I wish I had, because I was blown a freaking way when I was experiencing this. I was like, oh my gosh. So, and then get this, I took a step, right? The next step that I took, because I was blown away and nobody was around me. Nobody was there to see this. And I'm like, holy crap, this is just unbelievable. So the next step that I took, there was $10 under my shoe. Do you believe that? $10 under my shoe. And I'm looking around. I'm like thinking, does this belong to anybody? And nobody was around. It was windy. I was just leaving work. And I was just like, I said, thank you.
There's an article done in the Huffington Post, I think back in the early 2000s, and it speaks about how people have been first off viewing that movie and finding a way on how to manifest positive thoughts or outcomes, right? So it speaks about how many people are trying to manifest and focus too much on the outside, forms rather than something internally, right? Or different conditions, right? So what they said is that, and I'm reading it here, that many people approach manifestation from a how can I get something to feel better, rather instead the focus should be how can I feel better and therefore be energetic match for attracting more greatness into my life. So there's a difference, right? There's a difference to being, I want to do this for me to get something right away. rather than what can I do and give outwards to our surroundings, to the different types of energy, for that to be a ripple effect and to come back to me afterwards. And that's a good way to think about it, right? And to really digest, because it all goes back to energy. We spoke about water and how it's fluid, and it's like when you drop a pebble, right, in a body of water, and you see the waves, right, the motion being pushed outwards, but eventually it stops. But what we don't see is underneath that vibration, right? It comes back. Everything eventually comes center, right? So if we change our tune with the positive manifestation to being, I want it now, so what can I do it for it, rather than um, what can I do for others, in a sense that it will one day come back to me.
Totally. I agree. Let's see. I'm gonna read some of the comments. Allison says, "Hey, Juanito, 1975." CSFL says, "Hey, Smudger." Allison says, "Yes, I am, champ." Does anybody, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask myself or Big C's. Let me know. And so, do you have any more thoughts on the other topics that we talk about, or even the ones we're just talking about?
I think the whole psychic phenomena thing really I think spikes interest from many of us. I think a lot of us have that quote unquote sixth sense, right? Uh, Going back to Bruce Willis, that movie always comes out to me when I'm talking about psychics and sixth senses. But I think we all have it to a degree, and I think we could work on that to heighten that awareness that's I believe we all have, because we all have that inner feeling, that gut feeling of, we should do it, we shouldn't do it, perhaps we should not do it now or later, or that regret that comes back, right? And it's there. So if we tune into it, I think we could find a different level of sensibility of our surroundings. And that story you told about how you went missing on Center Island, and how I went missing over there on Delaware. It's I wonder if any of our listeners have something similar to say that. But it goes back to what could have happened between us, right? And why did it happen to you and happen to me? And 20, 30 years down the road, we're having this discussion, and your story was new to me, and I'm like, hey, us being family, we also have something in common here, right? And it makes you think on how connected we are with one another, and however we all think we're so different.
Yeah, it's like I was blown away by what you told me. I was like, wait a second, the same thing happened to you. I was like, oh wow, that's just unbelievable. So yeah, like in closing, because it's we're right at about an hour, so I'm gonna be cutting this one in about a few minutes. But I just wanted to add to the remote viewing. I'll keep you informed in terms of the remote viewing, how I'm going about with that. But in terms of the other thing that I mentioned about like doing the astral projection and working on these cases, and this is just me doing this, like, how do I say it? It's a thing that I want to try. I've never done anything like this before. I just wanted to state that for the record. I've never done something like this, but I feel it's a duty that, like, if we're able to do, like, I've been doing this for 27 years in terms of astral projection, and just most recently lucid dreaming and expanding the consciousness. So if we can do something like this, because there are people out there that are doing this right now, you know what I mean? So if I can do anything in any part, like in helping someone bring closure, you know what I mean? Then that's what it's about, right?
I have one thing to ask. Perhaps put your cell phone on record when you're doing it, and let's see if you pick up any chatter. Let it be your own or something else.
That's interesting. Yeah. Or the camcorder. I could just put it like by my bed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
food
that's
for
interesting.
thought.
Yeah, and then I gotta analyze the video because yeah, because that's a long process to do. It's like because it's like maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, or whatever how long the battery lasts, right?
Yeah,
But I've done it before with the sleep dream experiment. I don't know if I ever told you that one. Did I show you that one?
we could talk about that afterwards, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to thank everybody for checking out the live broadcast, and until the next one, peace and have a good one.